Good morning, everybody. Testing 1, 2, 3. 20 seconds to go on this beautiful, cool Friday. Good morning, Danny. Hidden. Alpha is in chat. And their screen is cut off the rest of the people. I hope you're all having a great morning. Here we go. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Crypto Warehouse. It is Friday. What is it? The 19th of September. I hope you're all doing incredibly well. We've got a good show today. We've got a lot of content. A lot has happened since Tuesday or Wednesday. Obviously, we streamed on Wednesday night. And in front of you, you can see the next quiz is the Mew quiz, which is next Wednesday. And that will be over on Binance Square, as well as on YouTube, so make sure that you check that out. Now, before we begin, I have my Maple merch on, which has taken 6 weeks to arrive. 6 weeks to get from Poland to Gibraltar. 6 weeks. I think I could have cycled here faster than it took for them to send these t-shirts. And it's not Maple's fault, by the way. It's the distributor and it's the postal system. We're supposed to be the most advanced continent in the world. Absolute poppycock. Absolute nonsense. It shouldn't take 6 weeks to traverse the distance between there and here. It should be here in a few days. What's going on in the world? Anyway, as well as Mew, next week we have a load of things to talk about today. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin. Are we going up? Are we going down? There's a poll question in chat about that very question. We're going to talk about the ETF wave, the SEC. I made a video specifically about this yesterday that you all should have watched. Okay, I don't normally tell you to watch a video. You have to watch the video I have made about ETFs. It is absolutely important. I'm going to try and maybe upload it to Binance Square. I don't know. It's a bit of a long video. It's about 10.5 minutes. You have to watch that video because I give you my thoughts on what's going to happen. We're going to be talking about Soulmate. We're going to be talking about A16Z, Cardano, and Ripple. We're going to be talking about Stellar and CCIP. We're going to be talking about a $1,000 BNB. Weeping Angels. I keep calling them Creeping Angels. Weeping Angels. If you've ever seen Doctor Who, they're statues of these winged angels. And they don't move if you look at them, they don't move. But if you don't look at them, they move. And that is what BNB does. BNB is a weeping angel. You don't look at it. You don't notice it. And then bang, it's at $1,000. Bang, it's going to be at $1,100. Obviously, we're going to have a pullback now, but you get the idea. Don't watch BNB, and it will just keep going. We're also going to be talking about the Reform Party in the UK and their CBDC objections. That comes from Donald Trump. And that is pretty much it. Let's see what the charts are telling us today. Let me bring up the charts first of all. See where we are. We've had a good old few days, haven't we? With the rate cut and everything else. I don't even know when the last time I streamed was. I think it was Wednesday night, wasn't it? I think yesterday I didn't stream. Yeah. Anyway, let's have a look. Right, let's get over to the charts. Theme of the day, ETF is game over. What am I talking about? I will tell you when I can bring up the charts themselves. There's a lot to get through, by the way. There we go. There's a lot to get through today. I'm going to go as fast as I can, but it's a Friday, so why should we be in a rush on a Friday? Bitcoin coming in at 117,000. That's up a bit over the last 7 days. Ethereum is up a little bit over the last 7 days. XRP is back above $3. Look at BNB. $1,000 for BNB. On the nose. It was at 991, I think, before the stream, so it's just popped up a little bit. Solana is hanging around at 243. I think we are primed for a Solana breakout. Now, we saw, and we've got a bit of news to talk about the XRP ETF yesterday. Doge ETF also went live this week. That's why it's game over. But we're going to talk about that in a minute. Solana's ETF, it's there. I can taste it. I can taste that ETF. I think we're going to hit $300 on Solana as soon as the momentum starts to build on these ETFs. Okay. Now, as I keep saying, October is liftoff. So me saying we're going to hit $300 is not really reinventing the wheel now, is it? But I think we're going to get that sooner rather than later. Doge is up a little tiny fraction over the week. Cardano is sitting at 90 cents. Maybe 90 cents is the new 60 cents. Who knows? Hype is falling down just the tiniest fraction. And Chainlink is back at almost $25. Look at Avalanche coming up on the outside. $34. I remember when I bought Avalanche, and I only bought a very, very small bag of Avalanche, it was ages ago. And we made a joke. This is how far Avalanche has come. 3 years ago, we made a joke about Avalanche because FIFA, I think it was FIFA or UEFA, they were going to launch NFTs on Avalanche. And the joke in the office at the time, and we said this on the live stream, was they simply went down the phone book and got to A and phoned Avalanche because that's the only reason to use Avalanche. And they've come a long way since then. That was 3 years ago. We're allowed to make jokes, okay? So they've done incredibly well. Let's have a look at who is up over the last 24 hours. Asta, sorry. Now, I'm not going to... Asta is a very funny one because it's backed by a certain somebody that I don't want to mention the name of, and it's on a bit of a tear, and I don't really want to talk about it because I don't know if it's going to be a pump and dump. So I'm a bit... I don't like talking about coins that are too new. I like to let them grow or settle or whatever. But go and check out Astra if you want to. IMX is up near. Are we seeing the awakening of Near Protocol? Are we going to see the $6, $7, $8 that we expect? And then are we going to go on to $20? Well, maybe. We're only at a $4 billion market cap. I think Near is a $20 billion project. Probably more, but who am I? Avalanche is up. VeChain, the Polkadot, which I don't talk about. OP is up. Chainlink is up. A few gainers. And have we got any losers over the last 24 hours that we know about? That MYX, again, another one that we haven't talked about too much. Came out of nowhere, ripped to the heavens, seems to be making its way back down again. Pump.fun, I got into at what did I get in at? 1.4 billion market cap. We're at 2.6, is it? Yeah, 2.6. So I'm still in profit, but that is going to have a retracement. It's having a massive rip up. People will be taking profits. SPX is down. A few losers. What's a few percent between friends? Absolutely nothing. Now, I have an absolute raft of X-Files. Okay, we didn't stream yesterday, so you've got to bear with me. Maybe we get to the end of the show at 12 o'clock. Maybe we don't. Good morning, the Dark Horse B&B. It is. Now, I want the Weeping Angel to stick, because I think that is the most absolute perfect way to describe BNB. It's the Weeping Angel. Eric Trump, the people who embrace crypto the quickest are going to win the race. And I think those who don't embrace it, they're going to die a very slow and painful death. He isn't talking about individuals here. He's talking about companies. He is trying to create FOMO. And again, part of my video that I made yesterday was... Has anybody seen Nanny McPhee? Okay. Nanny McPhee, at the end of one of the films, says, "When you need me, I will be there. And when you want me, I won't." That's what Nanny McPhee says to the kids. And what I mean by that is, crypto is at the time in its infancy where it's going to benefit you in your life. And you're going to make an awful lot of money. And whether you hold it for the next 6 months or 6 years, you're going to make a lot of money out of crypto. But you have to do it the right way. And that's what we've been trying to do on this channel for 3 years, is trying to help you find the right way. companies that make profits, companies that have roadmaps, companies that have sensible staff, companies that don't do stupid stuff, companies that have got good tokenomics, emissions. We try and keep you on the straight and narrow. Now, when the men in suits arrive, and Eric and Daddy and Junior and the giant, what's he called? The guy from Baldur's Gate, Baron, when they turn up and the men in suits from BlackRock turn up, that's kind of the end game. And I think that is the point at which it's no longer ours. It's always going to be everybody's, but it's no longer ours, if that makes sense. And the more that he pushes, the bigger your bags will grow, the more money you will make, and the happier you will be. But it's tinged with a little bit of sadness. The same way that when the internet first started, it was all you guys on the internet back in 2000 and 1999. It was the same people, the first adopters, the early adopters. You were the first people there, and you helped build the internet. If you didn't exist 25 years ago, and the internet didn't catch on, there would be no internet. If you guys are not here today, there would be no Bitcoin or Ethereum or Solana. You are the use case of crypto, and that you should be very, very proud of. And in 20 years' time, you will be able to talk to people about crypto the same way I talk to you about the internet, because I'm old. And in 20 years' time, you'll be older than you are today. And you are the people that helped create the internet. Now, you might think, oh yeah, but there's hundreds of millions of people. I guarantee you there is not. I guarantee you, if you added everybody together, you are looking at maybe tens of millions across the world actually got this thing off the ground. And it was a lot less 3 years ago when we first started. Maybe 10 million, 8 million. So you should pat yourselves on the back. But the men in suits are coming, and that's when things will slow down. Anyway, ETH, still in the $5,000 waiting room, whether it's sooner or later. I'm not going to cover ETH today, so I'm going to include this. If ETH holds on to 4.4 in the short term and move to new highs, it shouldn't take that long, I'm assuming. Now, I'm going to look at the Bitcoin chart on Monday. I'm not doing it today. Suffice to say, that bounce off the bull market support band is looking stronger and stronger every day. Maybe we go sideways for a few days. Maybe we don't. We're going to look at that in a minute. But I think we did put our low in when we hit the bull market support band. And I don't think we're going back there. Even though I was calling for 96,000, I don't think we're going back there. Now, this is for all of those people out there who've been holding dupe. If you've held dupe, we've had it, what, for 2.5 years now? A year and a half? I can't remember how long we've had it. It feels like forever. And we were telling all you guys, if you got the airdrop, go and stake it, get the rewards. And you've been given reward after reward after reward. This is the next big dupe reward. Okay, we've had some little ones. This is a big one. Meteora is one of the biggest DeFi projects on Solana. Up there, maybe with the likes of Orca and Radium, Camino Finance, Dupe. Those kind of ones are in the kind of the same ballpark. Step are now stepping up. They've launched this product, which is absolutely fantastic, which I don't know if I'm going to include in the show or not. I'll have a look. But this is the next big airdrop. Okay. The longer you have staked your dupe, the more airdrop you will get. Now, we've never unstaked. We've kept our dupe locked. Every time we've got dupe, we've locked it up. So I'm expecting a decent airdrop. But you're not going to get MET tokens. They're not just going to give them to you in your wallet. They're going to put them into a liquidity pool. So the second you get those tokens, they will be earning you money. Now, you can sell them. You can do what you want with them. But this is a bit different. Now, the snapshot date hasn't been announced, but if you've got it staked, doesn't matter. Stake, hold, and stay tuned. That's the best bit of advice. So I am not going to keep repeating that in Telegram. For those of you out there, this is where all of my content goes. All of my news goes into these. If you start asking me questions in chat the day after, 2 days after, 3 days after, I'm just going to tell you to watch the stream, because I'm not going to keep repeating myself. We are very busy trying to make as much content as possible and keep things going as much as possible. I can't keep sitting there going over the same thing again and again and again. So if you miss a live stream, just go back and watch it. It's 45 minutes out of your life. The SEC approves the listing and trading of Grayscale Digital Large Cap Fund covering Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP, Solana, and ADA, as well as PM settled options on the CBOE Bitcoin US ETF Index and the mini CBOE Bitcoin US ETF Index. All over for ETFs. And that's what we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes when we get onto that subject, because I'm quite sad about the direction that we seem to be going, which sounds a bit crazy, but I'll explain why in a minute. Right. This is the Quad Witching Day. So this is a very brief one. You will hear people today tell you that it is Witching Day, Triple Witching Day, Quad Witching Day, and this is what it is, okay? It's a date on which the contracts for index futures, stock futures, index options, and stock options expire simultaneously. And it's an awful lot, isn't it? I don't know what the amount is. Is it $1 trillion or something today? So today is one of those days. Let's leave it at that. But that's what it is. It's basically where all of these different options expire on the same day. And it only happens a couple of times a year. So I think, is it 4 times a year it happens? Something like that. So anyway, there you go. Right, and the last one is from me. In honor of Maple Finance, I am wearing their t-shirt today, as I showed at the start of the stream. There is the Maple Finance logo. Look, we are happily Maple Financed up. This is the new record for Maple Finance. Breaks $4 billion assets under management. 22nd of April this year, 1 billion. 9th of June, 2 billion. 18th of July, 3 billion. And the 18th of September, which was yesterday, $4 billion. It's not growth. This is market domination. And there's my little graphic that I make every time they break one of these all-time highs. Why is this important? Simply put, I believe that they're going to hit 5 billion by the end of the year, and I also believe they're going to hit 10 billion by the end of Q2, or maybe even by the middle of Q2, but certainly that range. Now, this, for those of you that hold Syrup, this is pretty important for you because the token price of Syrup is lagging all of this. To put it into context, when they were at 2.2 billion assets under management, the Syrup price was 65 cents. Today they're at 4 billion and the token price is 43 cents. It's come down 50%. No, it's come down a third, even though we are now double the assets under management. Now the assets under management mean nothing. Their revenue has doubled. So if revenue is going up, profits go up, assets under management go up, and the token price goes down. I tell you all the time, token price and project are two separate things, and they can lag in either direction. Look at Ondo. The market cap of Ondo is, what, 8 billion, 7 billion. The project has a lower assets under management than Maple Finance. Maple Finance's token value is, what, 500 million? Do the maths. At some point, this is going to make us all very rich, not financial advice. Now, we're getting on with the news. That's probably the most X-Files I've done in weeks. But when you have a day off, or not a day off, but when you have a day when you're not streaming, it's very difficult to try and compact all of those days into, one stream. Right then. How are we doing for time? 11:18. Doing really well for time, actually. Bitcoin repeats May breakout move as analysts expect $118,000 showdown. Bitcoin copies moves that led to its latest all-time highs, but analysts warns that the path to price discovery will not be easy. Now again, look at the date, 19th of September. I tell you, you have your bags packed by the end of September because in October we go up. And if we go off last year, 14th of October, that is 4 weeks. 3.5 to 4 weeks from now, we go up. And violently. And then, it's over. In a blink of an eye. So, the next 8 weeks, 12 weeks are probably most crucial time in this cycle for two reasons. We don't know for a fact that we're going to replicate 2021. We don't know for a fact that we're going to replicate the 2024 October rip, even though it's happened in 2024, 2023, 2021 and 2020. We don't know for a fact that's going to happen. October is the most bullish month in Bitcoin's history. I think there's been one red month in 10 years. So October is the month. So I'm not sitting here telling you these things that I've made up off the top of my head. Go and look at the charts. October is the month we rip. Now, I don't believe we're going to rip anywhere near what people tell you. I think we're going to 140 to 150,000, and that's it. Okay? You want to hear somebody tell you go to $500,000, go and watch somebody else with a South African accent, by all means, but you ain't going to get that here. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I might be wrong on both counts. We might not finish in November and December, and we might not stop at 140 or 150,000, but they are my targets. If you set targets in your advertising company to do $5 million worth of sales and you do $8 million worth of sales, have you failed? No, you've overachieved. If Bitcoin goes higher than $140,000 or $150,000, we've overachieved. If the bull run continues into Q1 next year, that is perfectly acceptable, and then maybe we go to 160 or 170,000. But the target is November, and the target price for me is 140 to 150,000, and that's my target. And if we go past that, great. Remember, my bull run target was 112,000 or something like that, 111,000, and we stayed under it for weeks and weeks and weeks. We didn't break that number, and that number didn't break, and I was sitting here, I'm going to be happy when we break it. It even had the number in the bottom right hand corner for a long time, and then we did. And then the target was 120,000, and then we broke that. Then the target was 125,000, and we never got there. So, targets are there to be hit, not ceilings. Now, Bitcoin is in a very comfortable position. We've got the 0.25% rate cut that we wanted. The markets have gone bullish. Everybody's excited. Bitcoin dominance isn't picking up yet. And we are in our range, the range that we have been in since whenever we talked about it at the beginning of July. We're in that range. Top of that range is 118,000. Guess what? The article talks about 118,000. That is the breakout point. We break that, we can have a challenge of all-time highs. If we don't, and we come down, as I've said 100 times before, we still have 110, 112,000 at the bottom of our range, a range that you sit in until you decide where you're going. And that's October the 14th when we go up. So we have 25 days to possibly be range bound. 25 days out of your life. You're probably going to get one more payday before we explode. This could be your last ever payday. Maybe you can quit your job in November because we're at $1 million for Bitcoin. I don't know. But the point of the matter is 118, 116, 114. Nobody cares right now. Okay? This is one of the things I was saying about Crow. Crow was at 35 cents, and I said, take some profits. It's not time. Take some profits. We're going to come back down. And what was everybody in chat doing, or everybody on X doing? We're going to go to $1. We're going to go to $2. No, we're not. We're in September. It's not time. The time is October to November. And that sounds crazy. It certainly does. There's always going to be outliers. Just because you have something break a rule doesn't mean those rules don't exist. Hyperliquid did it. We can go further back in time and look at Sui or Ton. Examples of this bull run where we've had coins leap forward. Some broke into the top 10, but it doesn't mean the rules are invalidated. And that's what happened with Crow. Crow had some great news. We ripped up. I said take profits. The Oracle said 22 cents. Nobody listened. Everybody held the bags, apart from the ones that longed. And guess what? We came back to 22.5 cents. Just what happens. When you get a pump, you should sell, not buy. And that's what you've got to get into your head. And that is no amount of people telling you that is going to help. If Solana went to $500 today, off no real major news, I would sell some Solana. And I would wait for it to retrace. That is exactly what I would do, and that's what I do all the time. I sold a lot of Crow at 30 to 35 cents. But I didn't sell my main bag, but I sold the stuff on the side that I was waiting for. If Pump.Fun rips tomorrow and goes to a $5 or $8 billion market cap, I'm going to sell all of my Pump.Fun because I've done a 6x, 7x. I don't care anymore. That's the key. Now, this is the bit which is bittersweet for me, and I may end up talking too long on this bit, but I don't really care. Good morning, Tariq. Tariq has arrived just in time, just like Gandalf the Grey. Turns up exactly on time. This is the bit that makes me sad. Do you know what? I am just a walking sponsorship. I've got a Maple Finance t-shirt on, and I'm drinking out of a Binance mug. I've become the kind of man I always hated, is a line from a song by James. If you don't know who they are, great band. The SEC rule change has completely and utterly changed the face of finance. And I am not necessarily going to go through this because I've already done it. So what I'm going to do is talk to you for a second. Because this is the sad part. Okay, let me just restart the browser in the background while I do this. Okay. So, for those of you that may or may not have known, 2 days ago, the SEC came out and changed the rules on ETFs and said, if the token falls into one of three categories, you do not need an ETF approval. Number one, if it's on a surveilled market. Number two, if it has a futures listing for 6 months on a recognized platform, Coinbase. And number three, if 40% of the market or 40% of its volume or something like that, 40% of it is already in another ETF, then you don't need an approval. Now, to you, that sounds amazing. And there is a list out there of 15 different ETFs, which are in my video. And the problem is, and I talked about this before about pendulums, the pendulum swung so far to the left that for a correction to be made, it has to swing so far to the right. And that's in life, politics, finance, DeFi, crypto, whatever you might be. We've gone from an establishment that tried to block crypto to an establishment that is now removing all of the rules. And it is terrible, and it is not the thing to do. We should not have anybody and everybody as an ETF. And those rules there will now allow for anybody to have an ETF. If you are Sui and you go and you get a futures listing on Coinbase, for example, and I've said in my video as well that I think Binance US and others will be added to that list. If you are on there for 6 months, you can automatically get an ETF. So the rules, the kind of the checks, out the window, completely gone. They've got more legislation for stablecoins than they have for ETFs. Now, stablecoins are backed by the American dollar, and therefore they buy American debt, and therefore they prop up the American economy. And it took me a little while, it took me a couple of weeks to realize what they were doing, because I couldn't quite see what they were trying to achieve with this. And now it makes perfect sense. If you grow crypto into a $100 trillion business, and 30 trillion of that, for example, is in stablecoins, and your debt of your country is 32 trillion, then all of your country's debt is held in stablecoins, which powers Web3. Simple as that. Every $100 that you have in Tether or Circle, every $100 is backed by American debt. So if you have 3 billion people around the world all holding Tether or Circle, you are supporting the American debt. And I'm not making a comment on that. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but that's the rules. So stable coins also are not allowed to pay you interest. So even though they make 4.5-5% a year on the actual debt itself, they're not allowed to give that to you. So what they do with it? They buy gold, they buy Bitcoin, they probably buy more American debt. So all of these rules are in place for stablecoins, but what about ETFs? Oh yeah, you can have an ETF, do what you want. Okay, as long as it's got a futures on Coinbase or Binance US, go and do what you want. Okay, great. So what will happen is we're going to end up with 5,000 ETFs, 6,000 ETFs. Every single project that you can think of that's worth a few $1 billion is going to get an ETF. There will be ETFs of ETFs. There will be funds of ETFs. There will be funds of ETFs of ETFs. Okay? That's just the game they're now playing. You want to understand how this works, you go and look at the funds market. And you will find funds for everything. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing either. Just making comments. If you want to invest in oil, you're Tariq, and you come along and you say, right, oil is $40 a barrel. And it should really probably be about $80 a barrel. So I want to go and buy oil funds, oil stocks, but I don't know which ones to buy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Guinness, and the Guinness Energy Fund buys all of the oil stocks of all of the biggest oil companies. So Tariq says, you know what, I don't want BP or Esso, I'm going to go and buy the Guinness Fund. And Tariq puts his $1,000 in, oil doubles in price, they all make exponential amounts more profit, and then Tariq's $1,000 is worth $3,000, and Tariq says thank you very much, and off he goes. Now, jump forward 12 months from now, I will be sitting here talking about the DeFi ETF. And in the DeFi ETF, you will have Jupiter, you will have Orca, you will have Aerodrome, you will have Radium, you will have Uniswap, you will have SushiSwap, you will have any ones you think of. You will be able to get an ETF that holds all of those tokens. You want to buy, let me think of another one. You want to buy an NFT ETF? Absolutely, we've got one of them for you, sir. That one will have Bored Apes, Pudgy Penguins, Cyberpunks, you name it, and you've got an ETF in that. There will be an ETF for everything, like every flavour of ice cream. When I grew up, we had 2 flavours of ice cream, 3 flavours of ice cream actually. We had vanilla, strawberry and chocolate. And if you were very rich, you would get a block of ice cream that had all 3 in it. Okay, Neapolitan. That was it. Nowadays, you can get gasoline flavoured ice cream. You can get charcoal wood flavoured ice cream. Okay, but look at how many people buy charcoal flavoured ice cream. Not many. So what's going to happen is these ETFs are going to get diluted beyond recognition, and the impact they're going to have on the market is going to be negligible. People are still going to buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, probably Solana and XRP, maybe ADA, and then that's your lot. Everything else is going to be scraping around the bottom of the barrel. Just the way it's going to be. So I'm not a massive fan of ETFs, the way that they are doing it. I think they should be slightly kept so people don't get rugged, because again, what happens if Sui goes out of business? What happens if Sui shuts down because it's run out of money? Sui goes out of business, blockchain gets shut down, guess what? You've got no money. It's all gone. And then what will happen is you will then decide that you don't like these ETFs anymore because they've cost you money. And then what you do is you sell off all of your ETFs and you never go back to crypto, and the entire market is wrecked. And that is a black swan waiting to happen. Ton, maybe not Ton actually, Sui, Hyperliquid, maybe not anything in the top 10, maybe Tron, maybe somebody discovers something about Tron, and then that gets absolutely rugged. The liquidity goes out of Tron, Tron gets crushed, goes to a $1 billion market cap, everything collapses around Tron. Massive black swan event, contagion kicks in, brings Bitcoin down. You've got to be looking at the negatives to everything that comes through at the minute, because not everything that comes through is positive. Deregulation is not the answer. the same way that regulation is not the answer. There needs to be a balance, and that balance is going to be, it's going to be cowboy time. There's going to be cowboys everywhere. Gary Gensler left, and we all went, oh, thank God for that. Gensler's gone. The markets can rip. And then Trump came in and went, slash all the interest rates, devalue the dollar. I want imports to cost less. I want to put tariffs on everything. Don't worry about, give everybody an ETF. Get stable coins in to buy all of our debt. That is not the answer. Biden was not the answer, and this form is not the answer either. It's in the middle. But as I've said at the start of that rant, the pendulum has to swing from the left to the right. And then when it gets too far to the right, it has to come back again. That's the way politics has worked for 100 years. If you've got a very, very socialist government at this moment in time, it will be gone. If you've got a very dictatorial government, it will be gone. Go and look. Most major countries have left and right swings over a 20-year period. Right, Solana Foundation, Cathie Wood's ARK Invest. Thanks for the advert. Joined the 300 million placement for new Sol Treasury Soulmate. Again, talked about this before. People are trying to become the alpha male of blockchains. Michael Saylor is the alpha male of Bitcoin. We've spoken about this. Tom Lee's the alpha male of Ethereum. We know that. Now Soulmate are trying to become the alpha male of Solana. It's just the way it works. We've got one for Sui. We've got one for... was it Ton have got one? No, not Ton. Sui. Say has got one. There's a few of them knocking around. And again, this just happens. It's where a massive position is opened. I think $1.5 billion has flowed into Solana treasuries this month as well. It's a big thing. Again, if I had to put, this is a very good endorsement as far as I can see from my point of view. If I had to put my entire net worth on one individual, it would be Cathie Wood. That would be it. It wouldn't be Saylor. It wouldn't be Tom Lee. It certainly wouldn't be any of the different blockchain leaders. It would be Cathie Wood. Cathie Wood is pretty agnostic to chains and technologies. She is like a sniffer dog for money. She can smell money a mile away. She buys at the right time. She sells at the wrong time. Sure, she gets things wrong, but she doesn't. She takes profit. She sells Tesla at $400 and it goes to $500. She doesn't care because she bought it at $50 or $100. She's 3x the money. She doesn't care. So people who say, oh, Cathie Wood has lost out on $1 billion because she sold at this point. No, she took profit. It's what you should be doing. You should be taking profits. Cathie Wood is a genius. This 300 million placement is just going to buy Solana, and it's just going to create a treasury based off that Solana. Again, all of these things, they're oversubscribed. You can look at the ones that came out for another company. It wasn't Gemini. Somebody else was oversubscribed. Anything to do with crypto and AI at the minute is oversubscribed because that is where the money is flowing. So again, let's look at where the money is flowing in this article, because again, you follow the big money and you'll do okay. Swim with the whales. Winklevoss, big players, absolutely. But I wouldn't bet against Michael Saylor. If I had to pick one person on with Bitcoin, it'd be Saylor. Absolutely. Not even BlackRock. I'd have Saylor. Right, Ripple, Cardano, and A16Z push forward US crypto legislation. There was a lovely picture of Charles in a suit on X the other day. He looked like he was, I don't know, going to work in a primary school. He doesn't suit a suit at all. US lawmakers are drawing heavily on industry input as they work towards a comprehensive framework for digital assets. At a recent closed-door session in Washington, executives from blockchain firms met with Senate staffers to redefine the Clarity Act, a bill aimed at giving crypto markets a single set of rules after years of uncertainty. Again, we talk about this, don't we? We have to give things air. Adoption, integration, and regulation. That's what we say. The Clarity Act brings clarity to crypto. That's what we've always wanted. Now, Ripple were there, Cardano, Coinbase, Kraken, Circle, Paradigm, Multicoin, Capital, and Andreessen Horowitz, A16Z, all had seats at the table. Former Fox business reporter Eleanor Terrett, who first broke details of the meeting, said the talk stretched beyond an hour and concentrated on draft language covering the exchange's issuers and investor protections. Again, this is important, and this is the kind of stuff that we want to see happen. The session also took place against the backdrop of the anti-CBDC bill being folded into the Clarity Act, a move that suggests lawmakers are considering various crypto reforms into one legislative vehicle. Although no final text has been released, the message from Washington is clear. The crypto industry is now a direct participant in shaping rules that could be finalized before the end of the year. Again, this is going to happen. Trump's got 4 years. Trump has 4 years. That's it. Okay? He is not allowed to stand for a third term, number one. And he has got 4 years from January to make his family incredibly rich on the back of crypto adoption. Let's make no bones about that. As I said before the election, if Trump came in and made America $10 trillion richer through crypto, and he took $1 trillion of that, as a business, if somebody comes to me as a business and says, right, I'm going to make you $10 trillion profit, and I want $1 trillion, I would say, knock yourself out. Off you go. Go and do that. People in the UK have been complaining this week that the Trump visit cost $15 million. Now, I blame the press for this, because the press are idiots. The UK and America have signed a $42 billion deal. $42 billion deal for tech. Now, don't get me wrong, the American companies are going to make a lot of money out of this, but the UK is going to get the skills, it's going to get the employment, it's going to get all of that. $42 billion comes into the country, and they complain about a $15 million bill to cover a state visit by the President of America. Okay? When you sit there and you think, I don't really know an awful lot about crypto, I don't really know an awful lot, you know numbers. Let's look at what I've just said about 10 trillion. If I said to you, I'm going to make you $42 billion and it's going to cost you $15 million, what would you do? Of course you would take the deal. The press have a responsibility, and they fail every single time on that responsibility. And they get people riled up for absolutely no reason. It's disgraceful. Okay? Disgraceful. But let's make no bones about it. Trump is making money. Trump Jr., Eric, Barron, they're all making money. Don't think everything is rosy. They're taking their pound of flesh. World Liberty Finance, USD1, pound of flesh. Okay? Forget Trump. That was to make everybody in that room on that night a load of cash, and it worked. Everybody else got rugged, however. Circle unveils cross-chain transfer protocol V2 on Stellar, expanding USDC interoperability. Again, we're going to see this more and more. We want a situation where Circle and Tether are on every blockchain. We want that to happen in the most secure fashion. If I want to buy an NFT on Sui, I should be able to buy that NFT on Sui, and I shouldn't care about transferring funds to Sui. I should be able to just get my dollars off my credit card and onto Sui. How that happens is no concern to me. Then I want to take that NFT and I want to play on a Solana blockchain game. I should be able to do that. And I don't care what people say about any single problem with any of that. That is how it should work. You should be able to play anything you want on any blockchain with pretty much any stable coin instantaneously without the need to do transfers, wormholes, or anything else. And Chainlink and Circle and Tether just make that happen. Okay? Because everything is friction. Okay? Now, these transfers are not transfers technically. What tends to happen is the funds get burnt at one end and minted at the other end. Okay, and that's what's going to happen with a lot of cross-chain tokens as well. You might have $1,000 of syrup on chain A and you want it on chain B. It gets burnt on chain A and minted on chain B, and the people doing the minting and the burning in the middle, they are the ones that have to do the hard work. Now, that's a terrible example because that doesn't exist at the minute, but there are plenty of examples of how that can work. Okay, there's a company called WAM. They're moving to Cronos, or they're adding Cronos to their different networks, blockchains that they're on. They're doing the same thing. It happens all over the time. Okay, look at Bitcoin. You want to have Bitcoin on Ethereum. You send your Bitcoin to Ethereum. You don't get Bitcoin at the end, you get wrapped Bitcoin, which is one-to-one redeemable against Bitcoin. So it's not quite the case of it's exactly the same thing that gets transferred across. But we need this. We need it on Stellar. We need it on Cardano. We need it on Solana. We need it everywhere. So this kind of move where you get Chainlink with Circle and Tether, that's it. That's what you want. You want those together, okay? And then you want MetaMask involved. You want Phantom involved. You want Trust Wallet involved. You want all of the wallets, all of the stable coins, and all of the Chainlink-esque cross-chain transfer protocols. You want them all coming together, because then you're not going to have a massive issue with liquidity problems on a blockchain, which you do have. Okay, outside of Solana and Ethereum, you do have. Excuse me. If I wanted $100 million moved to a blockchain like Cardano today, it would be so difficult to do it, if not impossible. BNB hits $1,000 for the first time as altcoins outpace Bitcoin after the Fed rate cut. I mean, we don't need to read any further past that headline, do we? How long do we have left? We've got plenty of time. Good. How many articles do we have? 2 more articles. Okay. So BNB's hit $1,000. Crypto prices upticked with alts on the front foot after Wednesday's 25% basis point cut by the Fed. They're unsure how sustainable the rally is, as data shows ETF outflows, exchange deposits, and a leveraged rotation. It's not time yet. I'm going to keep saying it. It's not time yet. We are still 4 weeks away from takeoff. We've had a rate cut. We're going to guess when we're going to have the next rate cut? Middle of October. Guess when we're going to have the next rip to the upside? Middle of October. Okay? We need 3 rate cuts this year, and I think there's only 2 meetings left. I don't think they have a meeting every month. I don't think they have one in December, maybe. So we could look at an October and a November rate cut. We're 0.75% down. Okay? That is what we want, and that is hopefully what we are going to get. So, what does this mean? It means my target of about $1,500 for BNB is still on the table. It means the alts will probably retrace ever so slightly over the next few weeks. Good. Fine. If we want to win a race, if we're in a long distance race, and I say to you, let's pick some coins so I can give you some examples, because it'll make a bit more sense. XRP. Let's say it goes to the middle of what I said. So I said $5 to $7. Let's say $6 is where XRP ends up. Now, we made that prediction at 40 or 50 cents. If XRP today was at 40 or 50 cents, I'd be like, we're never going to do a 12x on XRP in the next few months. Okay, let's say we go to February next year. October, November, December, January, February, 5 months. Can we do a 12x in 5 months? It's going to be a tough call. I would be looking at maybe it getting to $1.50. So all of these coins are now going into the last 400 meters of this race. XRP is at $3. If we're talking about $6, we're talking about a 100% move in a few months. Now look at where we came from. We went from 50, 60 cents to $1.50. Went from $1.50 to $2 $2.20. Went from $2.20 to $3.75, and now we're back at $3. So these leaps, every time it does a leap, it might be the same amount of money, 50 cent or a dollar increase, but percentage-wise it's less. To go from $1 to $2 is 100%. To go from $2 to $3, it's a 50% increase. So you got to look about that. So this is a 100% pump from where we are, but the market cap puts us over 350 billion. Is that possible? Blow off top? Yes, probably. Bitcoin is at $2.3 trillion. To get Bitcoin to $230,000 requires a market cap of $4.6 billion. That ain't happening. It ain't happening in anybody's dream. Now, to get to a $2.7 trillion market cap, or a 20% move up, puts us at $140,000. I'm all over that. I think that's absolutely possible. Market cap is at 4.08 trillion. I said we'd get to 6 to 10 trillion. You add up all of the moves below: Ethereum, XRP, BNB, Solana. We are likely to go somewhere in the region of 5 to 6 trillion, maybe 6 to 6.5 trillion. So I'm not a million miles away. We are not going to 20 trillion. We're not going to 10 trillion. And I think that's the key. But when you look at these coins that are jostling, how far from all-time highs are some of these coins? BNB, already at all-time highs. XRP, 20% off all-time highs. Solana, almost at all-time highs. Dogecoin is a million miles away from its all-time high. Was it nearly $1, 90 cents something? Tron is almost, I think, not far off all-time highs. Cardano is off all-time highs by about, 60%? 70% off all-time highs. Hype is pretty much at all-time highs. Chainlink, half away. So we're positioned really well in the top 10 to have a run at all-time highs. Where it gets a bit more flaky is when you go below the top 10. Litecoin's all-time high is what, $300? Maybe a bit more. We're at $116, so we're at a third of all-time highs. What saves Litecoin and other coins down here is the market cap. To move Litecoin to $200 requires, I don't know, maybe $500 million in inflows. Kronos is at 23 cents. To get that to $1 is going to require an almighty effort. So when you pick and choose through these coins down here, you can look at previous all-time highs and you can say, well, there's a load more coins now than there was 4 years ago. Yeah, but they're all crap. They're all garbage. 4 years ago, we had garbage, but less of it. And today, we still have garbage, but there's more of it. We've got, 20,000 coins. 19,600 of them are garbage. Clever money is not going to buy into that garbage. And you might sit there and think, we ain't going to go that high on those coins because there's more competition for them. There isn't. You go outside, maybe the top 50, and you are going to find startups, projects running off seed funds. You're going to find projects that don't make any money. You're going to find dead projects, dying projects, projects that don't have any development going on. It's all well and good saying we've got 20,000 tokens, but we're still in the same situation. There's probably 50 solid projects in crypto. Maybe 60, maybe 45. I don't care about the precise number. But the point of the matter is, you strip out stablecoins. Okay? And then go down these projects and tell me if they are profit-making and if they have a roadmap. And you can say yes to pretty much everything in the top 20, okay? Litecoin, old, still hanging around. It's still there. Toncoin, which was going to be a top 5 coin, is back down at 22nd. SHIB, people keep telling me there's more meme coins, so SHIB's not going to rip. SHIB's going to rip. Uniswap will rip because it rips on volume. Mantle is going to rip because DeFi is going to absolutely rip. World Liberty Finance is going to rip. Why? because Trump's in charge of it. Monero, I think, look at the volume on Monero. Tiny volume. I just don't see it. It's under a 51% attack every other week. It's finished. So you've got coins which are moving up and coins which are moving down. But you could filter. I mean, maybe one day me and the Oracle could spend an hour in a room with this and actually pull out all of the tokens that we think are solid projects. And believe it or not, I think we could get down to 100 and maybe only pick out 30. That's how the market is. If I know that and I'm thinking that, don't you think the men with researchers and suits and teams full of people are going to do the same thing? So when they come to crypto, they're not going to buy your bag of... I'm trying to find a terrible example down here. They're not going to buy your bag of stacks. They're not going to buy your bag of the graph, maybe. They're not going to buy your bag of Kaya. They're not going to buy your bag of Conflux. They're going to buy Chainlink. They might buy Hype. They might buy Avalanche. So money's going to flow to the top, not the bottom. And you may be buying these bottoms. Good. I hope you do. Hello. Thank you for your not quite daily post, but your post. Right, we've got 11:55. Right, well, we've got one last thing to talk about. Again, I don't like ranting too much, but I mean, some things just really get your goat up, don't they? And I'm drinking oat milk today in my coffee, and that's just making me sad. UK Reform Party opposes Bank of England stablecoin limits and CBDC plans. The Reform Party has dismissed CBDC as government overreach while advocating for a thriving private stablecoin market. Now, let me tell you a little story about this. And again, I pass no judgment on what I'm about to say. The Reform Party are led by Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage helped Donald Trump win the presidential election in America. Nigel Farage has been invited over several times to talk about things like free speech, talk about things about social media, American economy, UK economy, all that kind of stuff. He's been there, and he's leading the Reform Party. And based off the polls, they are going to win the next election and get 2/3 of the seats. Polls are going to be inaccurate by the time we get to the next election. But irrespective, him and Donald Trump are partners in crime, which is a terrible expression. Reform are opposing the Bank of England stablecoin limits and CBDC plans. What is Donald Trump doing in America? I've just told you that they're trying to roll anti-CBDC legislation into the Clarity Act. I've already told you that. I've already told you that they're trying to prop up the debt in America with stablecoins. Reform Party, led by Nigel Farage, are trying to take off the limits on stablecoins and block CBDCs. Donald Trump has got no limits on stablecoins and is trying to block CBDCs. They're both doing the same play. Now, on paper, do I agree with CBDCs? Absolutely not. I am absolutely against CBDCs. I do not want any of you in any country in the world to have money in your bank or in your wallet that every single government official can track. Okay? CZ's talked about it. Vitalik's talked about it. Privacy is a massive, massive problem. Who was one of the first countries to introduce the CBDC? China. That should tell you everything you need to know. Okay? A government does not need to know where you spend your money. And if you think this is tinfoil hat, let me give you a story. And I'm going to finish with this story because I think it's important. Okay? And again, I don't know how many of you are still here. There's a few of you still hanging around. So, let's say it's 2028 and Tariq is 26 stone because he's put a bit of weight on, because he's spent all his money on Teslas and he gets driven everywhere. And he goes to see his doctor, and his doctor says, you're overweight. We are going to stop you from buying sugary foods with your money. Then we've got, who else we've got? Danny's in chat. Danny had a big party for his 50th birthday. Buys €500 worth of alcohol. Gets a notification. You've bought a lot of alcohol in the last few days. You're not allowed to have any more alcohol, so we're going to stop you from buying alcohol with your money. If you think those things are not going to happen, then you need to have a look at some of the case studies of where this was trialled 20 years ago in different countries. Alcoholics are not allowed to buy alcohol. Overweight people are not allowed to buy sugary foods. There are places in Denmark where food is free, but it's all healthy. You have to go there. And I'm not saying any of these things, by the way, are necessarily bad. What I'm saying is, I believe in freedom of choice. If you want to go and do what you want with your money, as long as it doesn't impact on anybody else, you should be allowed to do that. And CBDCs will stop you from doing that. If you don't go and look after your gran, because she's not been visited for a few weeks, they can block you from travelling on trains and aeroplanes. If you think of making that up, go and look at what they've done in China, okay? I would never have thought that you would have been locked up in your house for 6 months, and I'm going to keep telling you this until I'm blue in the face. CBDCs are not your friend. CBDCs are the enemy of the people, and it might not be the people that introduce them. They might introduce them with all the best wishes, the same way that Oppenheimer did. Be careful what you wish for and be careful what you are told. Digital ID and CBDCs are not the future. Good morning, Bullish Bull. You have literally joined me as I am signing off. But what I will say is I now have my merch from Maple. I now have my coffee from Binance. I feel like I should have a cap on like the Formula One drivers do, which basically just advertises random coin. Anyway, I am done for Friday. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Have a great weekend. I will see you on Monday. The Oracle is back tomorrow night, so make sure to tune in. And I'll see you. I've had a few good rants, Bullish Bull. I've had a few good rants about stable coins and ETFs being a disaster and all that kind of stuff. So take care, and I'll see you all on Monday. Oh, by the way, before I go, one last thing, which I know many people are not going to get to see. Me and the Oracle are planning on doing a couple of different weekend streams where we just basically sit down and chat about crypto. We might do them on Saturdays, and we're going to do them on Binance Square and, of course, on YouTube. So it's going to be a free flow. We're not going to do it. I mean, I literally plan this show. I have a notepad which is about 150 lines long with all of the links that I talk about. These things are not quick to make. But the Oracle and I are just going to sit down and talk about crypto. So thank you, Danny. Thank you, Bullish Bull. Thank you, Protagonist. And I'll see you all on Monday. Take care.